Welcome to 5 Minutes, your quick dive into the wide-ranging world of insurance, technology, and leadership. I'm Miguel Edwards, and I'll be your guide as we explore these topics that are transforming not just the insurance industry, but the business world at large. Along with sharing observations I've made over the span of my career in insurance, technology, and operations, I'll be chatting with some of the brightest minds in business and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned executive or a rising star, an industry expert, or just curious about how technology is revolutionizing insurance, this is your perfect spot for your weekly dose of insights. This is 5 Minutes. I want to talk a little bit about perhaps a point of friction, because there's been a topic that I've been talking about with a couple of colleagues. I just did a webinar with Ron Hamilton over at BMS Re, the Chief Compliance Officer. We're talking to a gentleman named Anthony Habayeb, who's he has a product that looks at AI compliance, and then Carol Williams, and she's over at ERM, and we were having this really awesome discussion about the concept, especially when it comes to models that have been built by third parties, that carriers are leveraging. The carriers still own the risk for the stuff that they build, as well as the stuff that they use from the third parties. And we're trying to have this conversation around what do carriers need to be doing to be able to support and substantiate the various diligence that's required for model testing and kind of, just really truly understanding explainability, all of those things that ultimately regulators are probably going to start asking for. They haven't necessarily promulgated anything, but it's coming. And so what's your approach to that, and how are you helping carriers kind of think through that dynamic?
Yes, that's the question du jour, I believe right now. As we talked before about the speed and how we're personally seeing this, that's the question that I think should be on everyone's mind, frankly, because we will go back to the monolith and slow the organizations down, the industry down, if we can't unpack those models and have the transparency and depth we need to ensure they're fair, accurate, and consistently applied. Yet the speed at which the models are creating, so chicken and the egg, right? So to get to your question, as far as how we're helping with that, we are really using our fabric to really go backwards and to link to all the different model sources, right? Okay. And so if you think about the model sources, how they're created, and that's why if you kind of, again, eating our own dog food here, when we go rapidly internally, we do it with transparency. And so fabric ties to the sources. Workflow and case management allow us to give the comments along the way, so that when we get through there, and then anything that flows to the platform, you're able to see that that transaction and that transparency. So where we're helping the industry from that perspective is to give them tools that they can build the models and the processes that they're using to create the models, and then when they have deviance in the model structure, to be able to flag that as an alert, give it a range, red, amber, green, be able to flow it as an automated workflow item back to someone for clarification. Maybe you pull the model, park it for, the moment. Maybe you, queue to go, force work, to a manual queue for, for evaluation. It's early days transparently, yet that's some of the stuff that we're really working through as an industry team, and how we can help keep the speed and the accuracy, yet unpack and give more transparency. And then, we're a global organization. So whether you're talking about the, EU, privacy laws, whether you're talking about, APRA in Australia, we're working as best we can through our local partners there too.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys have a great advantage, because seeing it happen kind of globally, and I would offer, I think we see things happen in Europe a lot faster from a regulatory perspective than it happens here. So if you're using that as a harbinger of what's going to happen, then you've got a little bit of a preview, a crystal ball there.
Yes, exactly. And I share a similar personal opinion as well. And regardless of where you stand, or regardless of where the regions are at, it is going to be paramount, especially as you think about these models were built on, by humans on data. So how you can, and then understanding which model, how it fired, and, having that defensible regulatory, position is going to be paramount as we go forward. All the great things that the industry is built on, to be able to have that transparency as we continue to accelerate it. So.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense. This has been a great conversation, Jake. I just want to wrap with a crystal ball conversation, tying it back to that constant evolutionary mindset that you're never there. It's just there's no point in time. look into your crystal ball and what do you see in the next 12 months? I'm not even going to say 1836 because I don't think anybody can do that. Next 12 months, we're sitting here with generative AI and then agentic, and what's next? What do you see next? And what do we have to be prepared for?
Yeah, it's a great question. We believe that it will be more of the acceleration and adoption of AI. So if you look internally, no forward-looking statements. Yeah, if you look just through our lens that I can speak more openly to, the agentic AI, whether it be an underwriting agent, the claims agent, licensing appointment agents, our investments and our roadmaps are really shaped around these, as it relates to both, having those maybe slower or lower adopters still be able to catch up quickly because, that's the table stakes of where they're at. So, and I think that that's directionally where the industry is at, whether it have, the insurtech side, we do see more M&A activity picking up, which is, there's pros and cons to that. I believe that scale helps drive more investment across the industry and allows us to continue to benefit from that. But in a word, AI, but more specifically, adoption and then practical application for agentic that also has the guardrails. And I didn't mention, Appian's AI strategies are focused on private AI, keeping that data inside. I think that's also where you're going to see the next year, the governance models that we were just discussing that are really going to be, even more transparent and more baseline. Yet, what does it look like when the product is changing so fast and the capability so fast? So.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.